showing out a legacy entrepreneurs, which used to be called PayPal Mafia. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, founders of YouTube, founders of eBay. If someone is taking a product from 0 to 1 compared to emerging market or a mature market like USA or Europe.
Then the question becomes, how do you actually disrupt that market, right? Okay, by the way, users are never named. They're extremely smart. So at some point in time, I was handling chargebacks and stuff like that, right?
This buzzword called AI, what impact is it really going to drive in fintech?
In healthcare, behind the scenes, to pull up patient records, millions and billions of records.
That knowledge is not open for the masses. So welcome back to another episode of Ignition. This is Varun Pandey, and this is all about you, AI, and how products are going to shape up in the future. And today we have someone very special, Mr. Anirudh, who is lead product manager at PayPal, a legacy firm. For all of those who don't know, PayPal has a legacy of showing out a legacy entrepreneurs, which used to be called PayPal Mafia. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and founders of YouTube, founders of eBay, right? So it's actually very interesting to hear to you, sir. Welcome to Ignition. How are you feeling?
Hey, thank you so much, Varun. Thanks a lot for this. I know we went a lot of back and forth on this, but very happy to be here and share whatever little I have learned over a period of time. So super happy to be here, and thank you so much to you and Ravi as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for taking out time on a weekend, actually. I know you might be jumping on the US time a lot. It's really interesting because no one wakes up on the day one to actually knowing that they are product managers, right? They develop this sense over the time, they get the calling over the time, right? And I just want to know from handling risks to actually leading products from 0 to 1 at PayPal, how does your journey look like? Like, take us through as a product manager.
The best things in life just happen. You don't have a reason for it. Product management was one such thing for me. Somebody just decided to give me a chance. So my career started off in Bharat Matrimony. I mean, no relationship to payments though, but that's where I started. Somebody decided to give me a chance when I was in a bit of a spot, let's say, but somebody just, one of my seniors just called them up asking for help. And then like, they asked me in Hindi, like, product management karega tu? I was like, I had no idea what product management was. And all I knew by the time was I understood a little bit of numbers. I liked data to some extent. That's all I knew. And like, I was like, chalo, let's do it. That's where it started off, right? And actually, I was not even in core product management. I was actually in a business management kind of a role with one of these things called, it was earlier called as
Was it business
Matrimony
development
Bazaar.
or business analytics?
It just started off there, and then I slowly moved into core matchmaking product of theirs, and the run continued right over a period of time. And the PayPal also happened by chance, right? Applied on LinkedIn, I didn't even know the contact who referred me. Somebody had put a post, and then I randomly pinged them on LinkedIn asking, hey, will you refer me? That's all. That's
Nice.
all I did. And somebody referred me in, and the
So,
roles were
so,
like
so you
drastically
credit a
different
lot of it
because
to
this
the
was a
ones
consumer facing role.
externally, maybe guided you or actually gave you a chance, right? Where you are today. I mean, like obviously your hard work and your grit, but also a lot of times people just come up or appear in your life who actually give you a chance or maybe just ask you to come overboard, right? Would you also
Exactly.
credit them?
So largely we over-index for, definitely yes, right? So we generally over-index for hard work and under-index for the piece where we don't control a lot of these things, right? It's
Right.
actually the other way around. Hard
Right.
work and these things are extremely important. I wouldn't say no, but very, very important, in fact. But the other side of it, the aspects which we don't control, I think
Mm.
that has also played a big part in where I am today, honestly, right? I mean, there's this famous saying called like, only if you get a chance, even if you're Sachin Tendulkar, you will know that it's Sachin Tendulkar, right? But if somebody has to trust you to give a chance, somebody has to see that spark in you to see that this guy will do it, right?
Mm.
Somebody did that for me. So I'll always be thankful to them for that. So yeah.
Totally. So, sir, connecting with the legendary book Peter Thiel has written called 0 to 1, you also actually have your expertise in creating products which go from 0 to 1, right? So, for the sake of our audience, can you explain in very layman terms what does it actually mean? Firstly, and secondly, how does creating 0 to 1 product differ from creating them in a mature market like US or Europe, as compared to emerging markets like India, let's say specifically South Asia or Southeast Asia?
So when I work on 0 to 1, largely what I look at it is, first of all, it's extremely difficult. Okay, so you don't have a lot of data or anything to basis upon your thoughts,
Mm.
right? Like the only thing what you have in your hand is like you understand the market or you have a better product sense than a lot of other folks to actually say that this might actually work. right? Ola is a great example, right? Like Ola or Uber said that, oh, like there could be a need here, right? That is what we call as innate need, which people generally don't recognize it.
Okay.
But somebody is smart enough in the product space or in the business space to actually see that, okay, hey, there is a need over there. Let's probably solve for it. That doesn't guarantee you success, by the way. Okay. No guarantees of success just because you know that, right? Then you go ahead and start building features or like things saying that, okay, you're able to visualize that at a high level, then your challenge is also how do you break it down into multiple phases, right? It's got its own journey in a startup versus in a larger company. I'll not get into that, becomes a discussion on its own. But assuming that you make that conversation, you build features, capabilities, that is just one side of your story, which is difficult, right? I usually call it out, or it falls under the fragment of saying execution and stakeholder management, right? Like what we spoke about, execution and stakeholder management, which is extremely important. The other aspect of it is what we call as product strategy. Strategy is slightly loosely used in the product space, but largely, if you look at it, that gives you a path to your vision, what we spoke about at the beginning, right? You saw, oh, there is a need here, we can probably solve for it. You have a vision like that. And then you go back out there and say, hey, you devise actually a product strategy to see how do you go back and do it, right? When I say product strategy, it would be like, what are your consumers' needs? What do you have to build first? Then how are you going to go ahead and solve that problem for your
Like how
consumer?
how do
Which
you go
segments?
around it? Like personally, how does your framework work? I mean, like apart from
It
the normal
depends.
jargons people can.
You can't put one size fits all product strategy into every product, right? Sometimes your base product itself needs a segmented user base. For example, Lyft in US operated for a very specific user base, right? Notion acted for a very specific user base, or there are other products like that which acts for a specific user base. And there are certain products where you don't do segmentation. UPay is a great example, right? You don't do segmentation when you launch the product, segmentation or differentiation or anything like that, right? You don't get into product strategy at all. You build the product, then you know that there is an innate need for it. You build it out, then you figure out what kind of strategy you can apply, right? Everything doesn't work on one size fits all. That's where the product manager becomes super important because he has to make a judgment call without a lot of data and having a sense of how the customers might actually perceive that product. Saying this is
Especially
easy,
in
but it's like
B2C.
super difficult. Like
Especially in
it's super
B2C.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely difficult. Now, that's why you see a lot of products actually fail. 60 to 70% of your products actually fail, right? 30 to 40% of your products. Every year we see Google shutting down a bunch of things, restarting a bunch of things.
So, but
Why do they
in
do that?
mature markets, we see users react and respond a bit differently. And in emerging markets like Southeast Asia, or let's say specifically India, if we can talk, users are very different. So, if you can categorize broadly, how has your experience been? Or let's say if you can tell from your wisdom, if someone is taking a product from zero to one compared to emerging market or a mature market like USA or Europe.
Your fundamental thought process itself differs, right? For example, in US or Europe, most people would have used your product, right? Use your product. Then the question becomes, how do you actually disrupt that market, right? Like, what can be that feature or product what you bring in which can actually disrupt it, right? Right. In some sense, Stripe did that, right? Stripe, when PayPal was around, Stripe brought up a product which was like only for developers, right? Developer integration is simpler. They catered to a specific segment, but they actually disrupted the entire market. And they played in all the big markets like US, Europe, and all these places, right? They're not playing around in emerging at all, right? The thought process needs to be different because in emerging or in markets like Southeast Asia or anywhere where you have the flexibility to play around because you go back and forth, you understand innate needs of consumers and things like that. In mature markets, it's more of disrupting your existing churn or
Okay.
whatever is happening
Okay.
and then
Okay.
creating that new value which the users
Hmm.
will actually feel and start using it. That is how you visualize mature markets more
Can we say that in mature markets as compared to
because they're already using your product or your competitors' products or multiple things.
can we say in emerging
Yeah, good.
markets users are a bit more naive? I won't say naive. Let's say they are more they let you experiment more. And plus advantage of mature market is it's easier to monetize your product or let's say hit a certain point where you actually start earning from your product as compared to emerging markets. Is it fair to say that?
Not necessarily actually, right? Not necessarily actually. Like users are never naive. Okay, by the way, users are never naive. They're
Okay.
extremely smart. Okay, they're
Mm.
extremely smart.
Okay.
They exactly know what they want, but they may not be able to word it or like position it in such a way that product managers understand. Okay, I'll put it that way. It is our job as product managers to actually understand that need, right? Be it any space, right? The problems are very unique between your mature markets versus your emerging markets. And there are other things around it, the way it affects it, right? Like in emerging markets, you want to get away from cash largely, right? How do you get away from cash would be a bigger question, right? In the bigger or the mature markets, you won't need that question long because people are used to digital payments, for example, right? People
Okay.
know what digital payments are.
Yeah.
And there might be more needs coming out of them, like what digital payments can solve for them. That's where the disruption happens. And consumers may feel it, but
Mm.
they may not know it at scale because each consumer is unique to their own. Now, are we able to understand those consumer needs and actually make it at scale and say, hey, this is a common problem which needs to be solved? That's where the product
Mm.
manager comes in. So that would be a classic difference between these two guys and markets on how we actually operate.
And any personal anecdote where you felt since you're working in, let's say, being an Indian, you are working for a US market. I mean, like say a product which caters to the US market primarily. So any anecdote you have starkly, any anecdote in the fintech?
So I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Okay, I know disruption is also difficult, right? It's not easy. Like so, at some point in time, I was handling chargebacks and stuff like that, right? At that time, chargebacks are mature products, largely in
Mm.
the outer space outside of India. In India, people don't understand that because we're so used to
Mm.
two-factor authentication. But externally, very different market, and you have very different problems for your merchants or your consumers to solve over there
Okay.
versus what you solve for in 0 to 1. Because on mature products, you're trying to disrupt or make the consumers or the merchant's life as much easier as possible. And what
Mm.
can actually be done for that? And people are actually disrupting it in a very great fashion. This includes both, not only PayPal, right? Visa, MasterCard, and all these people are playing amazing products over there, right?
Mm.
Apparently, MasterCard has got its product called Ethoka, which has been doing fantastically well, or they're getting up into the speed on how they can make chargebacks lives easier, right?
Mm.
Visa has got its own product called Visa Verify. These things are like fantastic products which are in the market, which are actually disrupting the way we think about chargebacks or disputes overall as well, right? So that's kind of a
Mm.
disruption which I would refer to in my experience,
Mm.
which I've seen at least in the payment space.
When we talk about industry, more or lessly every business is actually bound to regulations, but particularly when we talk about fintech, it's bound even more,
Mm,
right? And
mm.
secondly, when you compare to markets like India, the regulations are even stricter. And maybe a lot of work around the business goes around, appeasing the government officials as well, to be very blunt, right? So when you as a product manager, or let's say the firm in a fintech industry, are launching something bold of a feature, is it something you're going strong, or is it something, you know, what are the chances that you burn your fingers more when you're bold, when you're launching something blonde? Let me rephrase it. When you're launching something bold, which has not happened before, as in the industry, what are the chances that you burn your fingers more? Like any personal anecdotes you hold, or any wisdom you can carry or you can share with the audience?
So first of all, if you try to circumvent regulations, you'll burn your fingers. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, you just can't circumvent regulations. Let's be very clear on that. Okay. So
Circumvent.
you can't circumvent regulations or the
Yeah.
regulating space, right? It's
Mm.
extremely important. So first of all, before coming into product manager's perspective, let's talk from a regulator's perspective, right? Why do they keep all of these things? Because they want to save the consumers, right? Because not
Mm.
everybody understands everything, right? How many times have you gone ahead and read the terms and conditions page before signing up an insurance,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Right? It's as simple as that. That's part of your regulation or your compliance which comes into play, right? So regulators are very specific because they don't want consumers to burn their fingers when we build some things. Now, the other way to look at it is, can you co-create product with regulators, right? Now, you say that there is a need and the regulators actually bring up a regulation, then you can have conversations with the regulators to actually see, can you co-create that product? Then when you talk to them about the problems, what you face, and then actually come to a middle ground somewhere to say that, okay, this is how much the regulation can impact, this is how bolder my product can actually be. Then it becomes a lot easier to send it out in the market and then try it out and see what actually
So is
happens,
it fair
right?
to say the regulations in US are comparatively, I won't say easy, but smoother to pass as compared to emerging markets
No,
like India,
no,
where they were more conservative? Is it fair to say
no,
that?
no,
Okay.
it's not like that. It's just that people are just getting used to the Southeast Asia markets or somewhere else, be it India, Brazil, or somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
because US has got all these data security rules with what India is putting it down today.
Okay.
US has got
Okay.
all of these.
All
It's
right.
not like
All
US doesn't
right.
have of these, any of these, right?
Mm.
Now you can't cry foul because some other country is trying to secure its own data. it's fair from their country's perspective, right? Nobody's going to say, hey, I will share my data with US, but US will not share my data with me. That's just not going to work, right? Then you will have to work for those regulations. Like I mean, data security is just an example because what we saw in India of late in terms of building things and where you have to keep your data and all those things, right? So that's why I said you can't circumvent your regulators, but at the same time, you also think about co-creating it. Now, the advantage of co-creating it is you actually create a very good product, which is kind of inimitable, at least for a few years. Like in your MBA classes, most people would have studied about an inimitable product of sorts, right? Which can't be imitated by your competitors so easily, right? Once you do that with your regulators and you have actually created that, then for your competitors to create something similar is going to take a lot of time, which means you have an amazing window where you can actually go ahead and capture the market share if your product strategy is actually right. So that's where it becomes super challenging. And regulators are important, but at the same time, they're also, you can actually work with them to co-create things. I know a lot of firms here in India go negotiate with the finance ministry on, or provide proposals even saying that, hey, this is what happens. Can we do something better? Like, hey, this is something which can you relax? This makes life difficult. The product will not even take over. Your regulations are like obstructing it. So, and the ministry is also fair enough to say, okay, this is how much I can reduce, and more than this, I cannot. I have seen responses like that. I've been in some conversations like that to actually see some of those things, or heard first line when people have actually negotiated some of these things with the governments, right? That's where regulations are important. But at the same time, it's not impossible to negotiate with them and make sense to them. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Are product managers also involved in such negotiations, or is it the legal team on more or lessly? I mean,
In
like,
large companies, it's usually the legal compliance teams, regulatory teams which you have. There will be a product manager who will give their perspective in it.
obviously there's
But
a context setting also, right? A product manager needs to give the
correct,
context.
absolutely. So they set the context, they set it up, but having the legal compliance regulatory people always helps because they kind of talk the same language with the ministry or the boards or the government regulatory authorities
Right.
also. It becomes slightly easier for translation, even though it is the same English,
Right.
the language what they speak or the way they think is slightly different. And
Right.
there are places where you can push them, but there are places where they'll also put down their foot and say they can't move beyond this.
So, sir, I'll move on to this buzzword called AI being thrown around like candy these days, right? So, when we talk about fintech, how real is the impact? And give us a peek into the future, let's say next 5 to 10 years. What impact is it really going to drive in fintech, and in particularly which areas?
Okay, next 5 to 10 years, I can at best guess, but this is completely my viewpoint on what I'm going to talk through here, right? Okay, AI, look at it in two ways, largely. One is the most straightforward aspect today, which is like making a lot of your grunt work or processes much, that too in larger companies, where you have alignment on dependencies. You have a bunch of processes which you'll have to follow. Can you make life all of those easier? Like, can you generate a prototype of the PRD, what you have written, much faster so that you can give? Obviously, your design team will definitely need to work on it. It's not like design is going to go away, but it's more like, can you generate a quicker prototype just to show it to your engineering team for them to figure out what kind of
Right.
work it is, right? What
Right.
would it
Totally.
mean for them, right? That is the
Totally.
most straightforward piece where AI can go ahead and actually impact
Right.
the way you think about product management, right? Extremely straightforward. And these are not largely consumer facing or merchant facing. When I say consumer, I mean both the customer and the merchant, right? Like not the outward facing roles, what you see for AI, right? Outward facing is slightly more complicated. Nowadays, I mean, at least as of now, if you look at it, most of them have used it only for customer service. There are a lot of explorations which are happening. Probably you can give recommendations, probably you can predict it better than your ML algorithms on what the consumer is going to buy next. What is their purchasing power parity, or
Okay.
like what would they actually go ahead and buy next? Can you do something like those?
Can we say that it will help fintech discover newer markets, newer segments by
You can.
tracking data and visualizing trends, and let's say wherever
So,
the new product discoveries can happen?
so it's not like fintech is not doing any of them. Not for that matter of fact, not only fintech, right? Any company is doing all of these things, right? They're looking at data. They're looking at. Is there a better
Yeah,
way to look at it,
yeah, yeah.
right? That is where can AI actually help. Now, one place where actually can AI help is actually churning out things much faster, right? So what is happening because of AI is development is getting happening much faster. Like where you needed 5, 10 developers, you can now do it with 2, 3 developers. Now there are problems with it. I won't deny it. There are like accuracy issues. they don't know the past history of the code and all those things, right? Which is being ironed out. But
Are you
largely where
talking
we
about your
see it
firm or are you talking in general? Like, are you
in
talking
general,
with the
right?
context of lovable, software like
Correct.
lovable
A
and all?
lovable is lovable. Lot of people, even GitHub has introduced its own AI solutions and
Yeah,
all those
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? So their coding is becoming wherever you need 10 developers, you're having 2 developers do the job, right? And then which means your other 8 developers are going to work on a bunch of other things, which means that your
Hmm.
product managers need to turn around with things much faster. There was something where I was reading about our product managers becoming the actual new blockers, the AI space,
You bloggers.
because you blockers. We
Okay.
block things because we're not able to turn out things faster, right?
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
actually
yeah.
a paper on that also. Like I was reading about that as well in some form. But that is where your next, I mean, like if you can, so which what this helps the business is also that you can try out a lot of things and
Hmm.
understand the modes or the consumers' behaviors much
Right,
faster than what you
right.
had actually done earlier. The speed is going to be like probably 5x or 10x of what are doing it today. 5x,
So,
10x
so, but
probably is a
I'll
lower
bring
number
you
I'm quoting.
back to the industry part. Like, where in fintech do you see, apart from the daily life of a product manager or let's say any professional, AI changing things, like particularly in fintech?
Predictive analytics, right? Predictive analytics, like what is your consumer going to buy next, right? Or what is
Okay,
the frequency of buying, right? Can AI actually predict or make things work that way so that you actually know
okay.
what your consumer is going to do in terms of what is his lifetime value,
So,
and
as I
you
said,
trigger
new market discoveries, right? You can frame it like that as well.
new
For
market discovery.
example,
You can put it
new
up as new market
products. Yeah,
discoveries.
yeah.
New product, you can launch new products because of that. Everything depends on, see, fundamentally that goes back to the phase where you actually understand what your consumer is doing. That's where,
Hmm.
because the decision making is going to be done by the product manager, right? The decision making
Hmm.
AI is just going to give you options. The
Hmm.
critical thinking part has to still be done by the product manager. But what
Hmm.
AI can actually do is support the product manager in getting out something to actually say that, okay, hey, this is what your consumer is going to do next. Can it be personalized at a consumer level? Yes. Can it be at a group level or groups of products level saying that, okay, hey, this is what my consumer is going to do in the fintech. This is what he's going to buy
Hmm.
next, possibly. Yes. Right. This is my
So
customer's lifetime
you
value.
have been in the domain for, I mean, like pre-COVID as well, and as you said that you have been a product manager from the heydays when product manager as a term was not that official, right? So bringing to the context of the question, post 2021 and 2022 when ChatGPT came into the existence and it was open for the masses to try out and experiment, there has been a watershed moment in terms of industries adapting to it, like the AI part, right? Even before companies used to look at the data and track new product discoveries. But post the AI era, how do you feel it's going to be different? Because data has been the oil for a decade now, right? For the product managers, for the business professionals to identify new industries and product discoveries. How is it going to be different in this AI era? Is what I mean to ask.
It's going to be faster, much faster. That's what I say. Because and mandate is not going to be free, right? Today it is like it's extremely cost efficient, but at some point in time, somebody has to pay the billions of dollars what is being used to process this data or power, right?
Right, right,
Now,
right.
this I will kind of equate it to the big data revolution, which happened somewhere between 2008 to 12. Because when I joined my first job, big data was a pretty big deal by the time. Like everybody were talking about it, and I kind of realized the same buzz is happening for AI right now in terms of doing things right, and it's going to make it
Mm-hmm.
extremely efficient, extremely faster if you use it the right way, right? And it's super scary too in some point in time, right?
Can
How
we
much of
visualize AI consultants in every firm sitting and tracking down and visualizing new product and product discovery, like a new profile, like what we saw a boom in data professionals as well in the last decade, right? And how it
so
became such a well-paid job.
AI consultants, I don't know, honestly. I mean, like, it's very difficult to predict. But right now, we're going with AI agents itself, right? Where it is replicating the work of a human altogether. So we'll kind of, I mean, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I'm just predicting here, right? It's very difficult
Mm-hmm.
to predict it. The way I look at it is AI agents are coming into place. So your repetitive tasks are going to go down the drain, right? Whatever you're doing in terms of repetitive tasks on a day-to-day basis, even in the fintech industry, right? That's going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said is the first or the most straightforward use case which AI is going to cut down, right? But rest of the other things, it's going to take time, because I know some companies which went on high on AI on customer support, they rolled back. At some point in time, there is a human who is needed in the customer support to actually sort out that issue. You can't always redirect it to AI agents alone and say that, oh, I'll sort out everything with AI agents.
As of now, yeah.
Similarly, even in the future, I'm saying that is not going to go away completely. Probably it will go away 50-60%, right? Random guess. I have no data points to substantiate it, but it's a random educated guess at this point in time. But you will need those people to actually, 5 years down the line, you're not going to say when you call up Flipkart or Amazon that I don't need to talk to consumer care. It may be now itself, it's super difficult. And we have a problem with it because we're not able to talk to an agent. Now, 5 years down the line, you're going to say, I'm going to talk to a robot. Now, robot can answer to a certain extent, like artificially take it to a certain extent. If there are very critical problems, very specific problems, you're still going to need human intervention there. It's not going to go away, but it will get reduced, is the thought process, right? And particularly in fintech also, you can only predict to a certain extent. How confident are you that the next purchase the person is going to do is only this by 100%? You can get to 80% accuracy, 90% accuracy at best. 99.9999. Like we are way too far from the 100% accuracy. Like when people equate it with ChatGPT or with OpenAI, my thought over there is like they're building capabilities which the businesses can use. Now, how business is going to leverage it is going to be the bigger question, which most fintechs are also trying to answer, right? Where they can leverage AI in their code, which can actually make the life of the consumers actually simple. But one way of doing it is like predicting what is their purchasing power parity, like what will the consumer purchase next? How can I keep the consumer hooked to my platform itself? So one example is like, how do I make people pay on Walmart only with my payment provider, right? Why is he going away, right? What can I offer more for them to stay with me? Can AI look at data and predict some of those things and say that you should try out probably these 5 or 10 things which needs to be built out to actually say this thing? And probably AI can give you a
You're
PRT also
saying
along with it.
that payment gateways, I mean, like Walmart developing its own payment gateway. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Not only payment gateways, but in terms of you choosing a payment gateway, right? You when you pay on IRCTC today, you go choose a payment gateway. Why do you choose
Hmm.
Paytm versus Razorpay? No
Hmm.
idea, right? We have
Hmm.
no idea as to why somebody chooses something, right? Can you
Hmm.
put a predictive understanding behind it, right? And see that
Hmm.
because the more times they click on Razorpay, the more times they're going to get it, right?
So is
The
it going
company's
to
going to.
solve the build versus buy problem a product manager faces? Like a payment gateway, a company doesn't usually tries to go for building its own payment gateway, right? They try to buy one, or let's say offer commission to a particular one like PayPal or etc. etc. Right? So do
Not
you see it
not
happening that it will
necessarily.
solve a build versus buy problem in near future?
Not necessarily. So usually industries go. So this is my pattern. What I have seen or observed, right? Industries go
Hmm.
through this bundling unbundling process. So
Hmm.
tomorrow somebody in an e-commerce business can go construct a payment gateway. They'll say that, hey, we are paying so much, so let's
Hmm.
construct it. So that is called as bundling. You bundle all the features with you and you keep it as a single point, right?
Right.
And somebody else will think of it like, okay, hey, this is not going to work because we are focusing on things which we are not supposed to be focusing on. Our business is actually e-commerce. We should not be focusing on payment gateway. At that point in time, they'll actually outsource it. They'll unbundle the capabilities at each level. Now,
Okay.
bundling unbundling goes through cycles and it happens. Now, AI will never be able to. I mean, it's very difficult for AI to solve that problem. I wouldn't call it out as never. It's very difficult because there is a human angle or a critical thinking behind a business judgment which has to be taken. And for
Right.
that, you need a human. You can't rely on AI for that. Honestly, with the way AI is today, on the next 3 to 5 years, right? Unless and until it becomes, there is another watershed moment where AI kind of proves this,
Very, very
which I think
interesting.
is like very, very rare.
Very, very interesting. So, heading on to the last question, I think a critical one from our audience point of view. A lot of us watching us are actually the ones who actually aspire to be product managers tomorrow or builders tomorrow, and ones who are actually also looking for a good growth as into the AI field. If you'd like to advise any three key points to anyone who's watching us amongst those. Totally, totally understood. So coming back to the question itself, any three pieces of advice for the future self, if you would, looking into the future of the AI world as a builder, as a product manager.
No, I mean, these are three things which I follow day in and day out, right? Like, okay, these are classified. The way I have classified it, I have learned it from a lot of people. Chasing excellence actually came from one of Mr. Harsha Bogle's speech in IIM Ahmedabad,
Right.
which is available on YouTube, because I relate to a lot of things from sports. High
Mm.
agency, I think I coined that word from Mr.
I
Shreyas
think you're
Doshi.
a proper football fan, right?
I watch a lot of sports. Most of my inspirations come from there. So I saw Shreyas Doshi's YouTube videos where he speaks a lot about high agency. So I was able to connect it to chasing excellence. And a lot of these things are not new. I mean, in some of
Mm.
these, I followed it without knowing the names. Some of these were injected into me at, I feel, at some right point in time. I don't know if I would have been ready if these would have been, like, for example, critical thinking. If it would have been injected into me when I was at Bharat Matrimony, I would not have appreciated its value the way I'm doing it today. Largely because, first of all, product management was not so big. Secondly, somebody would have spoken something so complicated to me, I would have been like, okay, what is this? I don't understand. So I might not have focused or put so much into it. Now, I don't know if I'd have changed the thing going back. I think everything happened for a good. I always look forward in terms of what new things I learned. I think you can go back and say, oh, I would have thought about high agency if I had known it 7, 8 years earlier. Probably yes, probably not. It's only the past.
I
I
think
can
it's
only make
also the
guesswork out of
choice.
it.
A lot of people know and still move on with it. Being high agency is always a choice. I mean, like you choose
Correct.
to be high agency. It cannot be, I don't think it can be put upon you until and unless you are prepared for it.
That's where
It's
execution
in your character
becomes
actually. Yeah.
execution becomes super important. If you don't understand execution, if you're not doing it, you will not even be able to slip into a path to excellence, to be honest, right? Or high agency, or however you call it, honestly, right?
Hmm.
So when that kind of happens, so I don't regret whatever had happened, right? My learning has been step by step. I think it suited me in some form. Probably somebody who's like extremely smart might have learned the path to excellence much earlier. I may not have. I don't know,
Hmm.
right? I don't know the
Hmm.
answer to the question, right? Going forward,
Hmm.
I keep some of these things day in and day out into the future so that I can follow that, and I look for new opportunities or new learnings or the way the market changes also, right? You listen to people who are doing phenomenal work in this space, right? The phenomenal work in this space. There are a lot of people who do phenomenal work in the space. You tend to listen to them and pick out things which can help you move forward. That's how I would look at
And
it.
so I believe sitting at a mature product like PayPal, you as a product manager, I feel you have the opportunity to sit at a pedestal where you can have an eagle's eye view on the emerging markets, or let's say products that will open up for the masses tomorrow. I mean, like, is it fair to say that? And secondly, if you have an eagle's eye view, I just like you to advise the future builders on how to identify markets, since this AI era is just like the 90s dot-com bubble, where everything is going to be built from scratch contextually, right? Whether it be, the search engine optimization, whether it be the browser experience, or whether it be the daily tools. So if you have that eagle's eye view, please share some
See,
pearls of wisdom for us.
I honestly don't know. PayPal is too huge. Okay,
Okay.
extremely huge,
I mean,
extremely
like
huge. Okay.
coming to fintech, I mean, like, let's say if you
See,
can.
even for fintech, uh, see, that's why in the podcast also I spoke about things. I up-level some of these things to a generic level because these apply to fintechs or these apply to anyone who's listening to it. Doesn't matter. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, it is not important to have an eagle's eye view. It matters what you do with that eagle's eye view, right?
Definitely.
I can have an eagle's eye view, and next I will expand to this market, that market. I can talk all of that, right? It doesn't mean anything till I start executing on that space.
But so what I mean by that is, the people sitting in, let's say, if I can switch the context, the people sitting in companies like a few AI, primarily AI firms like OpenAI, or let's say a few other more, are already peeking into the future because they are building for the future, right? So they know the market that will open up tomorrow. They have better context. And in that way, only I was asking from a fintech point of view, because that knowledge is not open up for the masses because they know where to focus and what to build. And that's a huge, huge plus if anyone has
Okay,
that right now, right?
I have my views or perspectives on it, but I honestly can't talk about it. Okay,
Yeah,
I
obviously.
honestly can't
Obviously.
talk about it because so when people have a view into it, it is more on the lines of how they expect the industry to change. Okay, I'll put it this way: OpenAI is building a bunch of capabilities, right? Now, it is building it at a generic level where people can use it across spectrums. For example, if you look at, so I was having this discussion with somebody on Pixel phones. Pixel's camera between Pixel 6 and Pixel 8 has had a great improvement because of AI. In terms of the videos, what they are constructing, from photos, they are able to generate videos.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
From photos,
Understood.
they're able to generate videos. Like AI is actually intuitively looking into it and saying what kind of video can be generated because it's understanding the entire landscape, what is behind you, where you
Mm.
are, what you're doing, and doing it, right? Now, does that have a business benefit? I don't know the answer to that question, right? That's for Google to
Mm.
probably look at it to see how it can be monetized. Probably it's the phone's price which made it go up, which is probably the most straightforward or the most dumbest answer which I can give, honestly. But how do you use it for business purpose is that company which needs to figure it out. OpenAI is giving you all the capabilities, saying that, oh, I have all these capabilities built out, which are possible. Now, how does businesses implement it? Like, how does fintech use it? How does healthcare use it? For example, big data was a super awesome use case for healthcare business because you didn't need real-time data processing in healthcare behind the scenes to pull up patient records, millions and billions of records. You didn't need real-time transaction processing over there. You needed a place where you can actually store your data, which or it became an amazing use case for purging of data, where you have to retain data for years and years together, right? It became amazing use cases, some of these places. Now, the people who created big data, if you leverage them in probably 2006 or 2007, around that time, they might not have been able to put up a use case to say, oh, this is where these are all options you can
Mm.
predict. But will it solve it here? Nobody knows, right? Now, that's where I would rank AI also. AI is in a similar phase where big data was somewhere around that time because the only, or the internet revolution, right? 1980s, nobody predicted internet would be here
Mm.
so much, right? People made statements.
Mm.
It can do some of
Mm.
these things. How,
Mm.
when, why? Nobody knew the answers to it, right? Now,
Mm.
what are the other contexts which supported it? The tech revolution, the 2000
Mm.
issue which happened around in 2000. I don't remember the, not getting this name, but post that, a lot of things moving online. Then your consumer behavior slowly started changing. Government
Mm.
started embracing
Apps,
it.
people
So
move to apps, yeah.
and apps. 2012 there are no apps. Honestly, 2012 you were not having great smartphones. You had that Nokia ka dabba,
Mm.
right? Which was
Galaxy
there
had come in
sitting around.
2011, I guess. Samsung
Ah,
Galaxy, but
Samsung Galaxy. My first smartphone was on dabba, which was there, which I was using only for calling.
yeah.
Then when I went to a job, I bought a Galaxy Y Duos. I still remember the name of that phone, Galaxy Y Duos, which had like few apps. It was running on 2G where I had to wait.
But
Now,
Apple
now
had come in 2007, 8 with its own iOS. I mean, like it had started scratching the surface, right? With respect to
that's
the
that's a that's a that's a visionary doing it, right? I'm a normal person. I'll be very honest. That's a visionary thinking
okay.
about it, Mr. Steve Jobs.
I actually miss him a
Visionary.
lot in this era because I was really curious what he could have visualized with the capabilities that are around right now, and
That's what
I don't think
Mr.
Apple
Musk
is
is
even
doing, right?
scratching the surface right now with all of it.
So that's what Mr. Musk is doing, right? He has moved away from apps. He has thought about AI or stuff which is actually doing it on another planet. Now, I don't know if it is centuries away or like 25 years away, 50 years away. I don't know. I don't know how far that is. Like it could happen even in 10 years. It could happen even after 50 years. But Mr. Musk is kind of visualizing some of those things. So that is kind of a visionary. Now, I can only predict things, but I don't have honestly all the experience to actually say that this is how it will do, or like I can't put use cases. That's why exactly I up level this to say you focus on some of these things. The way your product or AI changes, you will
Hmm.
still be relevant in that era also. Like what that is what I can predict or to project to say that okay, you have these skills, then
Hmm.
you will still be relevant in the AI era. The way, however, the way it changes. That is what I
Hmm.
can probably say. I cannot probably go out and predict what will AI change, right? It is
Hmm.
very, very difficult. People are experimenting still, right? Everybody in fintech is experimenting, right? Now, I have no answers how we're going to circumvent regulations. I have no answers how we're going to, not, sorry, I
But
shouldn't
I
use
guess
the word
you
circumvent.
mentioned somewhere that it's going to be more around the operational work when it comes to
That is the
fintech
most
that AI is
straightforward
going to
piece.
actually take care of, right?
It's the most straightforward piece which is in my vicinity at this point in time. Extremely straightforward piece, which can happen in the next 2 3 years, right? But beyond that, AI can do a lot of things, right? AI can do a lot of things. It can predict it, like we spoke about predicting your consumers' behavior, predicting
Hmm.
what people will buy next, how much they will spend on a certain place, right? What is their threshold for a certain product? Can it go to that level of personalizations? Yes. But can it be used? Because can it be used is probably a very easy question because you can say it can be used, but how many customers are going to share their data to you to actually make that
Hmm.
happening? What are the regulations which is going to come around that to say that okay, hey, this you can use it to do some of these things? I mean, like I can only predict answers. Even the government is kind of figuring out what levels you
Hmm.
can allow that to versus what levels it cannot allow it to. So sometimes it is super scary, even for me, when I look
Hmm.
at some of these things. So let's see where it goes. But what we as product managers can be is always be notepad, however AI turns, how can I make myself relevant in that area or in that year, wherever that turnaround happens?
True, 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 true. Really interesting and very insightful, sir. And thanks a lot. I think I am over with my question, with my set of questions. And I am pretty much decided and a bit wiser over the past few hours with respect to the AI and the fintech industry. And thanks a lot for taking out your time and delivering us a set of insights and wisdom, and especially to the audience who are actually going to be builders tomorrow.
Thanks a lot for having me on.